Hi, everyone. Welcome to FocustChats. I am your host, Becky Faith, and I'm excited to have Kevin Meyers, our Director of Application Development at FocustApps, joining me. We're diving into a hot topic that's crucial for today's businesses, and that topic is why data is essential for thriving in the market. We will discuss the common reasons some companies hesitate to invest in data analytics and explore practical ways to tackle those roadblocks head on. Plus, we will share how our product, FocusDNA, can make implementing data analytics a breeze for your organization. Last of all, we will discuss why it is so crucial for businesses to adopt data driven strategies to stay competitive in today's market. Please join us as we explore how to turn data into your greatest asset. Hey, tech enthusiasts. Welcome to Focus Chats, the ultimate blend of technology, fun, and education. I'm Becky Faith, your host on this thrilling ride. At FocustApps, we're all about the game-changing power of tech. And with Focus Chats, we're handing you the tools to rock it. Let's get focused. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for being with me today.
Hello, how's it going?
Doing good, doing good. Just want to touch on the fact of what this podcast is about. We're going to discuss the challenges in implementing data analytics in businesses and why it is imperative or very, very important for businesses to implement data and in order to thrive in the market. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, yeah. Data is probably one of the most important things that companies have at their disposal, right? Like it's right there. But most companies don't know how really to use it or how to get the data to a place where they can actually make it, affordable to the company, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I know you and I talk to a lot of businesses, and they mention about wanting data, but we're finding that there are some challenges and obstacles that are in the way of giving, starting that whole process. Could you touch on some of the things that you hear most, hear a lot of?
A lot of times it's the data silos that takes place. We have data in this system, we have data in that system. We don't know how to get it together
Mhm.
and be able to, look at it in such a way to give an overall picture to the company.
Okay.
So, or it might not even be different systems. It could be different departments inside of an organization where it's like, well, I got my data here, I'm collecting it this way. Somebody else is collecting the data slightly differently, but you need that full picture, specifically at executive levels or director levels, to make decisions about what needs to take place.
Yep.
And sometimes it needs to be very quick too. So,
Yes.
those types of data silos can really affect decision making because one group might look at it and say, well, I think the decision should be this way. Another different department could look at the same data slightly differently because they're collecting it differently.
Hmm.
We need to make this decision. So being able to bring all that together into one place where both departments or the whole company can look at it and make an effective decision to move one way or another is super, super important. And that's one of the bigger items out there that people have challenges with.
Yeah.
Uh, Another
So
one,
automating it is that, automating it together where it's a streamlined process where everyone is communicating with everybody knows what each other's doing, and then they can pull all that data together,
yep,
which is
yep,
a great process to have in order to know what's going on in your business.
yep. That single source of truth, right?
Right,
And
right.
that's really important. Like I said, if it's in different places, different people are looking at it,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily being effective for the
Right.
whole company. So that
Very
single
good.
source of truth is really important,
Mhm.
and there's automations, like you said, that you can put in place to get that data to where you need it to be,
Okay.
very simply and easily.
Okay. Great. Great. What else are you thinking that might be an obstacle that they run into?
Some people run into budget constraints. They think it may take a lot of money to do this type of analysis or to get all this data put together.
Mhm.
It really isn't. A lot of time the data is already sitting there. So, some companies think, well, I need to put all this extra software in place, or I need to do all this extra work to get the data, to get it into one source. And that's not necessarily really the case at all. That is, the data is mostly sitting there. I would say probably 80%, 90% of the data is just there already.
Already, yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they just don't know about it.
Yeah.
So, there is always costs involved when using or
Sure.
doing this type of work. But it's not as big as what you think. And you can use existing technology as well, that's there, right? I mean,
Okay.
we've used Access databases, we've used Excel spreadsheets, and I know you're like, "What's
Yes.
Excel spreadsheets?"
Yeah.
That's kind of antiquated,
Yeah.
but it's
That's
available
yeah.
already for most people, because that's what they do on a day-to-day basis, is
Yes.
in those types of systems.
Yeah. And do you find that even though they might invest in these expensive software to help them run the business, they still are using the Excel sheets because there's missing pieces, or maybe that's how they're getting their data. They're like, okay, I'm going to put it over here because this is what I see. And once again, goes back to the silos of what you're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. Because these big pieces of software, they are really nice, right?
Mhm.
In the sense that it can do quite a bit for you.
Yeah.
But most companies that I've dealt with are learning about is the value, right?
Mhm.
Because one piece of software can be used across multiple organizations, different companies, your competitors, even.
Sure.
So there's that little niche, that value that separates you from your competitors,
Yeah.
and that's usually where the big softwares tend to fail at that
Mhm.
point. Now they're very configurable. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
even in that aspect of it, it may not be able to do everything that you are trying to accomplish to provide that value to your clients or to your customers.
Yeah.
And so that's where those Excel spreadsheets tend to pop up every once in a while. Or you may have two or three different big systems that you are using, right? Like I said,
Right.
sales departments are using a big CRM system.
Right.
Production, manufacturing is going to use a totally different system.
Mhm.
And you may even have a big old ERP system that is separate. So being able to look at all the data, across the big systems, and then even bringing in some of the smaller stuff that maybe not be in those three areas that I mentioned.
Yeah.
It's that's important, right? Like you
Mhm.
have to have all the different missing pieces to make a good decision about stuff.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. And then 2, I think we've heard that accuracy and quality of data is something that people kind of freak out, do I really have that? Even though that data is there, like you said, 80% of it being there, is it accurate and can I use it? Can you touch on that and
Yep. Yeah, it's the cleaning of the data, right? Just like anything else, it's not may not be very good
right.
that you have out there. It's data, but you have to kind of scrub it to make sense.
Yeah.
So you might want to characterize or put categories around stuff, to help make a better decision about items. Those categories could be like on a manufacturing line. You may have three or four different parts, and those different parts you might want to categorize a certain way. Like I'm building a door, for
Mhm.
instance. So you can say I got three part numbers. Well, that's classified as a door. Whereas if I'm doing, for example, maybe like I'm building a glass window,
Mhm.
right? The same factory's still building it. It's going down different lines, but you're categorizing that data as window type data.
Yeah.
So now you can start, piecing that all together, and you say, okay, well, how am I comparing profit wise on the manufacturing floor for doors versus windows, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the data cleansing and the quality of the data comes into play.
Yeah.
Uh, and some people, you might be getting invoices from vendors, right? Well,
Right.
invoices from vendors can be all over the place. You might use 3 or 4 different types of vendors, which might have different invoices,
Hmm.
styles, and how they're describing things. That's where you can take that and you can normalize that data essentially to make it look better and make more sense when you bring it into your reports.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So they don't need to be afraid of that. That they're we can do the
Yep,
cleansing of it. There's an ability to go in there and scrub that data and categorize it and make it easy for us to pull that out, and they can see the whole picture. And
exactly.
it's factual data.
Exactly.
Great, great. So I know that we've touched on these things, but are there are there other things that maybe they talk about as well that really kind of blows them away of like, oh, maybe that's too much of a challenge for me, too much of an obstacle to even think about it because I think that's expensive too. Maybe like security or something like that.
Yeah, you always have to be careful about compliance and regulatory issues that are out there. Those types of items, when you're dealing with data, especially in this day and age, you have
Yeah.
to make sure that that data is secured, right?
Mhm.
And how that information is being passed around. So that's, it's very, very important. You don't want certain data to get to other companies. You also don't want certain data to get to different departments, right?
Mhm.
It's very specific in how you want to look and view things. So,
Yeah.
having that and having that strategy around the data, I
Yeah.
think can also be kind of mind blowing to people as well. Like, hey, wait
Yes.
a second, what's our data strategy? How we're handling it? Who can see what?
Right.
All that type of stuff can be very, very like where do I start at type.
Right.
It's a big shock to people when they hear things like that, or where do we
Yeah,
go?
because a lot of them don't know that they don't really think about that. I mean, I know that some people think, okay, that's data is very, very important, especially if it's a customer's data. They might be thinking about it, but if you're thinking in-house, you don't think I need to have that secure, but you do. You need to make sure that it is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, you want all the data to be secured and only available to people that should have access to it.
yeah, yeah. And then also too, I think you and I have talked about this, is that when you get the data, it's awesome. It's awesome. But we hear a lot of people say, but now that I have it, I don't really have a clear strategy or a plan. What do I do with it? That's something that I hear. Do you hear that often too?
Yes, and it really depends on how they want to drive the company. What
Mhm.
what types of metrics they want to be viewable to understand what they need to do next.
Yeah.
Uh, some people are like, okay, I got all this data. Now what do I do with it? Right?
Right.
Oh, I got it in one place. Now what? Well, that's where visualizations and understanding what you want the business to work on or focus on is really what that data provides you. So you can see, hey, I need to invest more in the Southwest of America, right?
Hmm.
Or there's trends happening over in California that we need to be visible on. You can see all
Good.
that with your data, which is super, super important. But like I said, it's business strategy
Hmm.
um, that really defines how to use that data. And some people need help with that, right? They
Yes.
look at us and they're like, what do we do now? Okay,
Right.
well, let's have a discussion. Like, what metrics are important to you? What's the number one thing that's going to move the needle for your business or your organization?
Right. Very good. Good. So helping people strategize that and have a plan and encourage them to have a plan makes their life a lot easier than
Yeah,
just coming in and saying, I want all the data I can get, whatever, whatever I can get, I want to see it. Because by utilizing that data, it can make a huge difference in their business.
oh yeah, most definitely, and it can change over time too. So metrics this year, KPIs this year,
Right.
are going to be different for next year as well. So
Yeah.
we ever see those types of reports and visualizations change over time.
Yeah.
Some visualizations never change because it gives you insight to problems that might be going on inside, like your manufacturing floor. You may have issues that you're noticing with maybe receipts or invoices, how long things are be coming in, how quickly you're paying stuff. Cash flow is always one of the
Oh,
bigger
yeah,
things for most companies. Got to have that
absolutely.
cash flow.
It's king.
Yep. Being able to monitor, when money's coming in and how money's going out is probably one of the biggest ones we hear from a
Mhm.
lot of organizations, because they want to have that understanding and how some of their business decisions affect that, right?
Yes.
So I want to move our payables versus 30-day payables to 60-day payables.
Mhm.
Some companies will do that, and how does that, what does that help with the cash flow
Yep.
type deal? So, you know,
Good.
having that full picture really helps with that, right? Especially if you're building products on the floor, how much inventory you have,
Mhm.
all that affects, the cash that the company has to go reinvest in itself.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things is, yeah, we can go take out a loan or we can go do that type of stuff.
Right.
But if you're able to increase your cash flow, you are able to do more things
Right.
internally.
Yeah, and by having that data, that helps them get the loans. They'd be able to show exactly what they say, "Hey, look, we can do this because we need this based on our data."
Yeah.
Some companies, and probably more than we like to talk about, do not know that, and that is something very important to know.
Yep.
Moving on to our product at FocusApps, we're going to toot our own horn a little bit here and talk about FocusDNA as
Sure.
a comprehensive solution. So, I would like to ask you, how do you see FocusDNA addressing challenges that we just talked about?
So one of the biggest things is really related to just diving into first steps into data analysis,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
It's a very nice tool that big companies can use, or even small companies can use as well. And I say dips your toe into it, and I say that because you don't have to staff people to do this type of.
Right.
It's a full service. We kind of consider it a SaaS application, but it is really, we are your data team with this type of product. So we'll come in, we'll work with you, clean up your data if your data needs to be cleaned up, as
Mhm.
well as centralize it into one place from multiple sources. you
Yes.
know a lot of companies don't have that. They may have an IT staff that will help with networking or
Sure.
your basic functionality of software that you're running to keep the company going.
Mhm.
But a lot of people staff data analysis or data, yeah, or data people, uh,
Mhm.
and that's and understandable, right? Like it's
Mhm.
it's it's not something you need 100% of the time, and
Right.
that's what Focus DNA does, right? Yeah, it's a tool, it's a web based application where you can visualize and see all your data in one place.
Mhm.
But behind the scenes, we are actually your IT staff as well.
Right.
So, and you can move as quickly as you want or not, based upon your own budgets inside the system, what your company is looking for.
Yeah.
So it can be one data source, 10 data sources, Excel spreadsheets, Access, big SQL databases, whether that's Microsoft or Oracle, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Um,
We can even do the QuickBooks. A lot of people say, "Are we too the
yep,
QuickBooks, can we use it?"
yep,
Yes. Okay.
those are big ones as well. So we
Good.
can take all that, even like I said, for small companies or for large companies, it's a one place stop shop for that type of stuff. So you don't have to worry about that. And
Right.
then we also worry about the security side as well.
Mhm.
So we make sure all your data is secured and the right people have the right access to that data. You can also extend it out to your clients. So
Okay.
that's also a very nice feature as well.
Yes.
That a lot of companies or a lot of other types of software don't give you, right? So we can
Mhm.
take your data, you can share a portion of that data to your customers or clients to provide that extra value. So
Yes.
it's very good internally. It's a very good
Mhm.
internal tool, but you can also give that value back to your clients. So you can give
Yes.
reports and information about what's going on
Mhm.
back to your customers, which is a great value added.
Yes. And then that data too is, we manage that for them, like you said, by having meetings during the month and going over that data, and also focusing on their strategy that maybe we've helped them, we've actually helped them put that together. A lot of it is listening, asking questions, and trying to find out exactly what data they want to see.
Yep.
And then we implement that. And then every month we go through that to make sure they're getting what they need, which
Exactly.
I think is awesome, because that you have a set meeting and that's what you do, and you go over it. And then what we find is that they will add on to that as time goes, because they realize, oh, this part of data here is incredible, but what about this over here? They start opening their mind even more to all the things that they can get.
Yeah. And
So,
what's nice is that it sits between everything. A lot of times, clients will come to us and like, oh, well, we have an ERP system and it has reports built into it.
right.
There's nothing wrong with that, because
Mhm.
those reports to me are built for the ERP system,
Right.
right? Your people are using that on day-to-day activities. We're not going to rebuild that for you per se. What we're going to do is take that data that's in that
Mhm.
system, and we're going to marry it with the data that may be in your CRM system or in your your MRP system, right?
Yeah.
So that's the luxury. Yeah, your system may have data, right? Or it may be hooked to a particular machine that you might be getting data of, but you
Mhm.
could have 20 different machines on your factory floor as well.
That's right.
So being able to look at that all together, because you're going to have different manufacturers, right? You may
Mhm.
have this machine that does this specific component, to your build of that product, right? It's going to
Mhm.
focus on that. It could be measurements, it could be vision, which is really good and great. But now
Mhm.
you have another machine on the opposite side that might be doing the same thing, but from a different company, or maybe it's a little bit
Right.
older, right?
Right.
So, you're not going to have the same pieces of hardware or the same machines in your factory
Mhm.
doing everything the exact same way, and the data is being presented that way. So that's what this does. It
Yeah.
really takes it from all these different places
Mhm.
and puts it together to give you a full picture of what's happening, not just my ERP system, not just this one machine that's giving
Right.
me vision and analytics from it. It's
Mhm.
nice, it's great. You need that. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to take away from that part of it, but that doesn't tell you how it compares to another machine that maybe does or does not have analytics on it.
Right.
So understanding that is really key to manufacturing. I've been in that world for a long time.
Yeah.
Uh, you see different machines doing the exact same thing,
Mhm.
um, and they collect data differently. And I want to know, how's this performing versus this over here. I also
Right.
want to know how certain products perform on different lines, because they do.
Yeah.
Manufacturing lines are better,
Mhm.
and they get through things. Other ones are not.
Mhm.
But how does that perform? Because
Right.
you're trying to get output, you're trying to get the best quality, all that stuff. And so being able to see the metrics at a full level
Yes.
is really, really, it's unbelievable. And that's what FocusDNA can do. It allows you to do that type of stuff.
That's incredible. I love it. I love the product. I think it's amazing. I was wondering if, like, me, I would want to know maybe some of the weaknesses that are happening, or something that's happening,
Mhm.
and I keep seeing it, but we're trying to figure out what it is, kind of like maybe a predictive maintenance type thing. Is that something too that could go on?
Yeah, you can definitely look to see if something's degrading over time.
Okay.
So, and how it's degrading, and maybe why it's degrading.
Hmm.
Some parts can be made out of different alloy metals, right? And
Hmm.
so you might use this type of metal one way and another type of metal another way, and you can see how it degrades and how often it needs to be replaced.
Very good.
Welding heads, lasers, right? You can see
Hmm.
all to see if there's any kind of degrade. Lasers take a lot of mirrors and
Sure.
lenses to focus laser points and things like that
Yep.
that may need adjusted over time. Factory floors, things vibrate very hard.
Hmm.
So you can see and look at those metrics that are coming from the machines and understand, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to adjust something based upon what the data is coming in?
So being more proactive instead of reactive, like, oh, it happened and oh, we got to run around, the parts down, blah, blah. It's more like, oh, okay, I can see this happening. Let's go take care of it now
Yep.
before it breaks down or before it breaks or whatever.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's amazing.
And then also if you're tweaking something as well,
Yeah.
and I use the word tweaking because, coming from the manufacturing engineering world, it is you may put something in place or you may adjust something hoping that it will fix or make a process better. And you can look at that data now and be like, oh, wait a second. Nope, my adjustment went the wrong way or it goes the right way. Right.
Okay.
And it's
That's
really,
so
really important as
efficient. Yeah, that's efficient. I love it. I know that we kind of touched a little bit on in the beginning, but can you walk us through how a typical business might implement Focus DNA once they say, hey, we want to do this? How would we go about doing it?
First, they can call you, Becky, right?
Yes, please call me. Call me. I got this. Will be the best thing you ever did. I promise.
And then what we do is like after that part, which is always the nice part, we go in and we work with you. So
Yes.
we'll go in and we'll talk to you about the data that you're trying to collect that you may have. We'll start digging into those data sources and seeing what it looks like and give you feedback on exactly, hey, this data doesn't look very nice. How about cleaning it up? We'll give you pointers about categorizations and things like that we can take place based upon what, like I said, what you're trying to do. So we'll work with you up front to understand what you're trying to accomplish and where you want to use this to drive your company. We'll do that. And then we'll start doing the implementation part. We'll go in and we'll start building everything.
That's the easy part, right?
That's the easy part. So we'll get that, centralize it. And then from there, based upon that initial discussion, we build the visualizations for you, right?
Yes.
We have canned visualizations that we do out of the box that we may not have to do much, for financials, so manufacturing visualizations. And we have all that stuff that we can definitely demonstrate to anybody that's interested.
Sure.
But we do have some standard ones that are out of the box that we can get up and running very, very quickly. And then from there, it's kind of a review, right? We work with you. We'll keep in touch and making sure the value's there. We'll also monitor stuff in the background to make sure for some reason Johnny turned off the server and we're no longer getting data for some particular reason. So we'll do that as well.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for walking me through that. Can you give me and share a success story of a business that implemented FocusDNA so we can share it with the audience?
Sure. I won't give their name away, but
that's right. I get
it. But the company that we're dealing with, they own other businesses under other companies, so they're kind of the parent company, and even their companies own other companies as well. And so as they're growing and as they're getting bigger and purchasing other companies, right, that data needs to be brought together. Well, unfortunately, their data was all over the place. It was in different locations, different data sources. Like some of them were in Microsoft SL, some of them were in QuickBooks, so what we're trying to do, or what we have done, is put that together into a single data source so they can roll everything up to the parent company. So which is really nice, and we did that for their financials, which is really good. So it's really what we did was we kind of looked at all the different data silos that they had, and they couldn't really understand what was being purchased and how much was being purchased, and lengths of time. And what we did was we were able to do that. We took their invoices, we invoice data, I should say, not the actual invoice, but their invoice data that they had in all these different systems, and we centralized it. And then we cleansed the data, right? We spent several weeks going through because the data that was coming in was different from each location. So it was the exact same thing, part that they were buying, but it had totally different descriptions because they were using different vendors. And so now it was like, hey, I have this description of a part over here, and that exact same part from a different vendor is being described as this. So we cleanse that data so now both parts are recognized as
That's the
individual
same.
part number.
Very good.
Yep. And so by doing that, now you can start building on top of that. You
Yeah.
can definitely, they were able to roll up all those finances to the parent company so that they can then use it and make business decisions about what was going on. And,
Yes.
versus making a guess at what was happening.
Yeah.
It was an educated guess. I don't want to make you
Sure.
sound
Sure.
like
Right. I know that. I know. They're a good company.
exactly. But it was, they were, it
They
was
needed
an
help.
exactly. It was an educated guess based upon sifting through all this data. And now
Mhm.
they don't have to do that, right? It's not
Right.
an educated guess anymore. It is,
Right.
it's there, it's in front of them, and they can make good business decisions based upon that data.
Yeah. Quicker decisions, because I would assume that when they were pulling that data, they would really have to, it'd be probably a couple of days to pull all that because of that confusion.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's what we see not just with this company, but other
Mhm.
companies too. Is well, I got a person that can do that. Is what we
Right.
always hear. Well, it's great. I'm glad you have a person on site. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But is his full time job to do that? Because most companies are not. Like I said, they have a smaller IT staff, and they may
Mhm.
dabble in it a little bit, but
Mhm.
90% of their day to day activities is something else.
That's
And
correct.
they usually have to wait. Well, I can get that report to you in 2 or 3 months.
Right. Right.
That's not, in today's
Mm.
age, things are moving faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
Like we discussed in our previous podcasts on
Yeah.
technology, and so companies need to make quicker decisions about what's going on
Yeah.
inside of their organization. So
Yeah.
yeah, though it's nice that person's there and they could probably handle some things, but
Mhm.
like that's what we are. That's what we help. That's what Focus DNA does for you. We're
Yeah.
sitting there waiting for you to call us, essentially, to
Sure.
say, "I need you to go do X, Y, and Z," and we can turn that over very quickly back to them.
Yeah. Because, well, I mean, the IT department is already inundated and busy with everything that they have going on. And this is more of a longer term management, especially if you're wanting to go over the data, make sure it's the way you want it, adding to it, all those things. By having a team like we have, we're able to, take that burden off their plate, and then be like, their support for that. So I think it's
Exactly.
works really well together. It just
Yep.
seems like, because we even have the IT department said, that would be great if you, take that off our hands because we've got all this going on over here that we have to do.
Yep. And we maintain the infrastructure on our side as well. So that's why we consider it a SaaS solution. We have
Yeah.
a web front end that's provided to our clients. I use FocusDNA, but then we also manage all the infrastructure on the back end as well. So you don't have to worry about that. Like you don't have to fire up a cloud environment to do this type of work
Yeah.
and worry
That's
about those
great.
costs. Because even when you do that, now you have infrastructure and you have networking and you got to make all these connections.
Yeah.
We handle that all ourselves because it's built up for us. We maintain all that infrastructure. So that's what I
Yeah.
mean. We're like your kind of mini IT staff when it's related to data analytics.
Absolutely. And we're secure. And
And that's the
yep.
most important thing. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. Um, Kevin, what advice would you give to businesses that are hesitant about investing in data?
I think the biggest thing is, uh, it really business is moving very too slow, or I should say, business is moving very fast. And you may be hesitant, but some of the things that you get from it is right real time decision making,
Yes.
identifying different market trends that are happening. You
Yep.
also have behavior analysis, which is also very important, specifically if you're building products. If you're a B2C company, right? It's very important to be able to see that because people shift and change the behavior and what they're buying
Yep.
very very quickly anymore, just based upon events that happen or media that takes place. So
Absolutely.
being able to uh, without having that analytics or it's or not having that path or the data strategy really limits the growth that your company can really see.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of going back, I want to go back to FocusDNA real quick. How do we ensure the data, the privacy and the security on our?
I mean, we follow standard industry standards related to security. So we do and can silo your data off in its own environment, so it's not mixed with anybody else's.
Okay.
Which is with some companies that's very, very important.
Yes.
Have security policies that are in place internally that we recognize that as industry standards.
Yep.
That are out there. We also provide the governance related to like GDPR, the California stuff for their data governance. So we follow all those industry standards.
That's great. Yeah, we're proud of that.
Yeah,
It's something you should do. You should do that. Everybody.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot
right.
to get the nice little star next to your company.
Yes. That's correct. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. With everything that's going on and all the hacking and all of that we see going on, we can take care of that.
Yep.
One last thing in our closing thoughts is, and I wanted to ask you, what's your vision for the future of data analytics? What do you see that in, and FocusDNA's role in it?
I consider to see right now is the AI, the generative AI capabilities. It's only going to continue to explode the more we get into it, and also just being able to centralize your data. Data is just all over the place. It's so much. We talked about data warehouses and big data several years ago. And we are able to do a lot of that stuff, but nobody uses it maybe in the correct way. But I think that's where the AI portion will come into it. Being able to have those questions already set up for you. It's already giving you feedback about the data, so you're not actually having to go through report by report by report. You can look at it. There's a section out there that's just like, hey, this is what's happening inside your report. And then you can be like, hey, what about this metric? And it will come back and it will tell you exactly what it thinks. I think that's one of the biggest things. FocusDNA has that capability already that can be provided. And that's, like I said, I continue to see that growing astronomically moving forward, and companies using that data to create different data models and really learning based upon it and to make good decisions.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for all of this education and awesome knowledge that you have. I really appreciate it. I learn from you all the time. I'm just the salesperson, so I just like the fact that you understand all of the back ends of it, especially on the manufacturing side, because we know that a lot of the manufacturers are needing this type of service. It's something that they're getting more involved in, and we just want to let people know that we have a product if they're interested in that they could reach out to us. Of course, FocusDNA can be used with any organization, like you said, small to large, medium, whatever, and any type of business. But we know that more and more manufacturing, larger construction companies and things like that are really diving into wanting to have and be able to manage their data and have a bird's eye view of everything that's going on in their business. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, we've put FocusDNA with financial companies. We've used it in manufacturing companies. We've used it in logistics companies.
Yes.
So it's very diverse. It's not just a silo piece of software either. So it's very, very good. So
yeah. Thank you. And thanks for everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. If you need to find out more about FocusApps and FocusDNA, please reach out to us or go out on our website at FocusApps.com. And we look forward to our next episode coming up soon. Thank you.
Thanks.